Hey guys, this is Steve from Cookout Coach coming to you live from, well, the front of my house. Um, Disclosure, you may hear puppy dogs barking. They're probably going to knock the camera over, really. But, we went live, I think, a week or two ago now. And, I don't know, everybody just seemed to like it. I think everybody's so used to not being able to do anything right now that they jumped on it. So, what I've been doing a lot these days is just some competition meat practice, specifically ribs, during the workday. I take a little couple-minute break to check on my ribs. It's just like if you're cooking lunch at home, except for I'm cooking barbecue that's hopefully comp worthy. So what I've got today, I'm going to put you down here, is some St. Louis spare ribs. These are just from Food Line, but honestly, I don't know who's private labeling these for Food Line's organic brand. But this is the second set I've got from them, and they look incredible. So you guys, if you want to, are more than welcome to join me for this whole prep part. The cooker's over there warming up. I think it's actually up to temp by now. But I'm just going to walk you through and show you what I'm testing, what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to go ahead, scoot you down a little bit so you can get a better view of the ribs. Now, just a heads up, I didn't think this through all the way. There's a good chance that I won't be able to see what you're saying and talk to you. But, once we get through and we start letting it sweat, I'll pull the camera back up. Let's see. So I start on the back side usually, and I start up around this top part when I'm going to cut through. I start over some fat that I know is going to go away, but parts that I'm not going to have hurt feelings about if I accidentally catch in there, and that's just a 6-inch boning knife, 7-inch boning knife, something like that. So, hold that one back. We're going to pull this out of the pack. These ribs weigh 2 pounds, 2 3/4 pounds. I like to get them a little heavier than that, but right now I'm just taking what I can get, and these look pretty nice to be honest with you. So 2 3/4 pounds it is. Here comes the, let's see, go ahead and knock that off to begin with. And it's windy, so stuff might blow away. Don't worry, I get it. Now, when you're pulling ribs, here's the thing that nobody ever talks about, but it's always with me. You see how this one comes clear back off that bone? There's 2 membranes to a spare rib, and you're only trying to pull that first one. Now, if that starts to happen to you, don't worry about it too much, because usually you can get it to let go and just get the top one. But everyone always says pull the membrane. No one ever specifies, don't get both of them. There we go. And usually I find they pull way better if they're really cold. These aren't super cold, so as is tradition for going live, you got to fight with things. But once we get it rolling here, there we go. See, if it's really cold, like almost frozen still, a lot of times I don't get the breaks like that. But when you do, you just kind of deal with it. I'll tell you one thing I've been dealing with the current situation is I have one heck of a time finding nitrile gloves anywhere. That's why if you pay attention to the last couple of videos I put out, I'm doing them barehanded, which is fine. Just wash my hands. But there is something to be said for the convenience of just being able to take off a glove and throw it away. There we go. That lasts a little bit. All right. So I think that's pretty well taken care of. Now we're going to go in here, talk about the fat below the membrane. Right here, this is a lot. To me, that's a lot. Let's see. Kenneth's there, Pickle's there. I'm just trying to take a look to see who's in the chat right now. Appreciate y'all hopping on. But this is a little too much fat for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bow it up and get at it as best I can without going crazy. Pretty much, I bow it up and try to hold it flat. And what I get, I get. And what I don't, I don't. And then I come over here, do the same thing pretty much. What I get, I get. What I don't doesn't bother me that much. And a lot of this stuff you can reach in and just pull it off with your fingers. Now, one thing you may notice is, again, I don't know who's private labeling these, but they've comp trimmed this skirt. There is no... That skirt meat really doesn't bother. I might try to get that just a little bit, but for the most part, that much skirt meat for a comp doesn't bother me at all. We look up here. We're going to go ahead and take a little bit off the top. I'm doing my best to keep you guys in frame. All right. Actually, this is what I'll do first. So, the reason I haven't cut these down any is because when that happens, I like it to happen on a bone that I'm getting rid of. So I know right off the bat, dear, I know right off the bat I'm going to remove that bone. That bone is thin and wide. It's not going to do anything for me in a competition. If you're not practicing for comp, or if you're, just eating at home, obviously leave that on. Anything you can yield is great. But for comp, for me, and for practice, you got to practice how you play. So I pull it off. I count 10 bones. And then the 9th bone, or the 11th bone, to go right up against it. Square that off. Anything that looks funny, go ahead and square that off. All right, now we flip it over. Now we have a smaller, more concise rack of ribs. But we're gonna go ahead and cut it. I like to cut it down just a little bit more. Helps with fitting in the boxes. Helps if your bones aren't straight, cutting it down a little more can really help. So we're gonna make a line just so I can see and start powering through it. There we go. And of course, the way to tell, if you're happy with what you've done, I can see those pin bones. Other than right here, it's a little more cartilage. Right there, you can tell I'm almost all the way through that cartilage. But that makes me pretty happy. Now, what I would do right here is if I had scissors handy, which I may go get here in a little bit, but I'd nip that off. But you can just use a knife. That's fine. I just can get more precise with a set of scissors. Same thing down there. Flip them over. Now, the top fat. Everybody has a differing opinion on what to do about that. I take it off. Take it off on the big bone end, at least. It kind of renders. It renders pretty well. But when it renders, it takes the rub you put on with it. Odds are I'm not really using these for turn-ins, but in a pinch, you never know. So, okay. Yeah, see, that's down to cartilage. There's no way that's getting turned in. But that bit right there, I'd like to get if I can. I haven't sharpened my knives for a few times, so I really need to do that as well. Today, we're probably going to let that ride. Now, this bottom section right here, this fat, I've had mixed results with trimming that. Depending on how deep it is, you'll get into your bones if you're not careful. What do I use to sharpen my knives? I really just, honestly, it's a Lansky brand little crock stick thing. It's got a course on one side and a fine on the other. And I just run them through there a few times. If I really need my knife sharpened, there's a fella in my area. It's called Grindstone, is the name of his company. And he has some really good rates and does some sharpening for some other competitors in the area. So I usually call him if I really need something, but most of the time, just a few run through the crock sticks will keep me good. So I'm pretty happy. You know what? I'm going to try to take some of this off. Not a lot. Just a little. So I got it loose from that side. And then if you put your ribs like this to hold them down, you can get like a 45 cut on them. And that pretty much makes me happy on that end. So here we go. That's pretty much our crop trimmed ribs. Pretty much. I'm going to go after that. I can't stop myself. Just a little bit more. A lot of this fat up here depends on where the butcher cut the hog for spare ribs, how big the hog is, all sorts of things. So don't beat yourself up over it. It just kind of is what it is. So the next part that I do is I inject my comp ribs. So let me get the injector. Here's my injection. It's all mixed up. This is the new Blues Hog pork injection. This is a test on some of it. See what it's like. It smells different. So this is my BDI injector. Malcolm Reed used to sell these. I think their supplier went out, so now they sell a different siphon injector, but I'm a big fan. Let's spray some injection off into the yard. Uh-oh. Huh. So we may have got something in the injector. Let me see here. Fellas, we might run this one without injection today. There we go. Well. Tell you what, I think I might have a hole in my hose. Alright, well, cool. That'll happen sometimes. No worries. We'll just grab another glove and we'll go straight to rubbing these down. So, bring you back up here. Alright, so if you leave a comment now, I can see it. Yeah, that's a bummer about the injector. I've got a different one, but you need a small needle. Like, that's a 16 gauge needle. Have you ever brined your... I have brined my ribs once, Pickle, and I did it at the Jack. I did it in tests before that, too. I don't have a problem with brining. The reason I choose not to is because I don't like to brine them for a long time. I think I brined them for like 4 hours. And in my comp schedule, you know, in backyard, I'm only cooking chicken and ribs. So if I get up at 6 to light the pits, well then I would have had to got up at like 3 or so if ribs go on at 7 to brine the ribs. And it, you know, it's one of those questions is if it works and produces a way better product than normal, then it's absolutely 100% worth doing. But if it's the same as a simpler process, I'm just going to stick with simple and see if I can't make that work. And I didn't see a huge difference in my ribs from brining versus injecting. Really, we're going to check and see if we even need to inject. Man, that kills me. Can't believe that thing isn't working. Huh. Oh, wait a second. Oh, we might have got it back. All right, so we did. So kinda. We got it back enough that we can pump some injection into these ribs. All right, so here we go. When I do inject, this is how we do it. Injector, in between each bone, just a little pull. Just enough, really, and you can tell because I'm doing this right before we go on the pit, this is really just going to give us a little bit extra moisture. It's also going to help with our rubs. I'm not going to use mustard as a binder because we've got some injection line on the board usually. There we go. Still needs some investigation, but it is moving a little injection. Okay. There we go. Clean hand, dirty hand. Injection kind of worked. Now, okay, back to what I was saying before. Bring it back up. Oh, there we go. I just saw something come across there. The injection juice is going to be our binder. I'm not going to use mustard. I'm not going to use an oil. I don't think it's a huge difference. There's plenty of guys who win with both, but mustard and oil both have oil in them. Oil and water in the protein don't mix, so even though our rub is sticking to the binder, it's not really going to get through the binder into the protein. And I think I heard Meathead talking about that on the Barbecue Central show to Rimpy the other night, a couple months ago. And I thought it was worth trying. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going with the rub combo of little Cosmos Q Dirty Bird Hot. My buddy Will from over at Qing with Uncle Woo, the YouTube channel, or also from Smoke Masters, the two-time back-to-back NBN Team of the Year, his premium rub, he just sent me some. I liked it. I want to try it, and I'll give that a sec, Pickles. Some Cosmos Q Honey Killer Bee as our top. So, Pickles, I've never used Worcestershire sauce. I'm not opposed to it. Here's my thing. I have such a sweet tooth when it comes to ribs that the beefiness, the umami-ness, the beefiness, the savoriness of Worcestershire just doesn't jive with me great. Hey, Scott, yeah. The smoke, so, yeah. So there's not a whole lot of places to get this stuff. But if you go on Facebook and search for it, I think the Memphis Barbecue Supply Company carries it. And this is really good. I've just tried it raw. And we're going to try it on these ribs today for the first time. But this is really tasty. I think it would actually be a perfect KCBS chicken rub, to be honest with you. Hey, there's Woo right there. What's up, Woo? Yeah, it's great. I think it'd be an incredible chicken rub. But we're going to go ahead and rub these down. I'm going to let the backside sweat a little bit, and I'll bring you back up to talk to you some more. So, let's see. And I've got those rubs in different shakers, if it looks funny. But here's my Dirty Bird Hot. We're just going light. My last few runs of test ribs I thought were a little too salty. So I'm going to back off of what I think is giving it the salt rub. There's our Smoke Masters. We're gonna go heavier with this one. This is the main rub I want to use. So we're gonna go a little heavier with it. Okay. And then this is the Cosmos Q Honey Killer Bee, even though it's in a Heath Riles bottle. Don't hate too much. I just happen to have a whole bunch of empty bottles around the house. And Cosmos Rub is a way better deal if you buy it in the bag. So, alright. That is competition loaded right there. Bring it back up. You know, I've only ever tried a few Weber rubs, and it's been a few years ago. But they were fine. The Smoky KC rub, I think. You know, it was okay. I'm curious about you guys, though. With as much rub as I just put on that, that to me is like medium high for a comp. I've gone with more before. And even in the last video I did, I went with more. And sometimes what you run into when you go with more rub, I find, is that it cakes up. And it doesn't ever set. And you end up washing it off in your wrap. Or even worse, I think, is if it stays on and you end up just with a cakey mess on top of your ribs. I'm just curious if anybody else has had any issues with that before. But we'll let these set for a few minutes. Too much rub is no good. I agree with you 100%. And that goes from the backyard to competition. Why wouldn't you mix up? So that's a great question, Jimmy Q. And I'm not opposed to that, really. Honestly, the only reason I haven't so far is because, again, if you go back to sort of the science behind how meat and things work, salt is the only molecule that can penetrate the cellular walls. So, putting all these seasonings on, I'm not waiting for them to soak into the meat. They're not going to soak into the meat. They're going to stick to the outside of the meat, and that's fine with me. But the salt, and I think there's a heavier salt in the first rub I laid down, will actually penetrate that meat and start changing the structure. So that's kind of why I went down with that one first. Now, they all have salt in them. Every rub has salt in it. So, really, I don't think there's any reason I couldn't just mix all three and put them down. There might be a little bit of a difference in ending color, maybe. But really, that's about it. Salt will actually, yes, absolutely. Salt will draw the moisture out. It creates an interesting effect of it'll penetrate the cellular walls, draw the moisture out, but then through the osmosis effect, the meat will actually draw more moisture right back in. Right. So once it pulls the moisture out, the meat has to pull some moisture back in. Do you get concerned about the sugary rubs burning? I don't, Pickles, and the reason is because I'm not a hot and fast guy. I'm right on that board. I run 275 all the time. And I've ran some crazy heavy like brown sugar wraps, and I've never actually burnt the brown sugar. And the brown sugar it's just white sugar with molasses, so it's a very fine sugar, but I've never actually burnt it. So that's kind of where I am on that. Now, if you run hot and fast, if you're a can cooker and you got that direct fire just beating on your proteins, and you're running 300, 325, yeah, that's probably the reason a lot of guys go with turbinado sugar. Other than it's just way easier to deal with. So, it's way easier to deal with, but also it's a larger sugar granule, and it won't burn as quick. Jason from Stone Mountain, what's going on, buddy? Glad to see you putting out videos again. All right, so we're going to go back to it. Flipped her over. See, you've got some of that injection right on top there. Here we go again. Little Dirty Bird hot. Oh, it's windy. That makes this way more fun. Actually, that kind of helped. All right, some Smoke Masters. Trying to calibrate for the wind. Just a touch more. There we go. And Cosmos Q Honey Killer Bee right on top. Easy. And that's as heavy of a comp rub as I want to go with right now at this point in my life. Give it a little pat. There we go. Alright, so those are rubbed down. They're injected-ish. Enough for me to get a test. We're going to wait for, I don't know, I'll give these 5 or 10 minutes. Depending on how long you guys want to talk. Cooker is up to temp over there. I made some modifications to the baffle plate in my new cooker, by the way. I strayed away from the original design that Frank over at Smoker Builder came up with. Mainly because I thought it was going to be easier to just drill holes in it and kind of like skeletonize the baffle plate. Well, turns out Frank's a really smart guy. He had those measurements in there for a reason. And what it was doing... You use the usual brown sugar. I'll get to that in a second, Pickles. Yes. Sort of. But anyways, so Frank had actually... He has calculations to figure out how much airflow you need to make things work right. And essentially what was happening is I had it choked down enough. I had a roaring fire in my firebox. But I was choking it off, coming up through those holes to actually get to my actual cooking chamber and heat it. So I have a guru on it, and that guru was just chugging for all it's worth to try to keep up and creating a blazing out fire, which is great, but it wasn't getting up there, so it didn't think that it was actually doing its job. So last night I took a Sawzall and I chopped out some connecting pieces and created essentially more airflow, and this morning it just purred like a kitten, so that was fantastic. Now, Pickles, the brown sugar rub. Yes. From the time I started cooking barbecue because ghee is awesome for nutty flavor. That would make sense, Sherry. I never thought about it, but that would make sense. But Pickles, from the time I started cooking because I was watching Pitmasters. And ribs were always my favorite barbecue thing, and I don't really have any barbecue restaurants. I had one, it went away. The best option in my town for barbecue ribs is Texas Roadhouse, to be honest with you. But I saw Johnny Trigg cooking ribs, and they kept throwing around, he's the godfather of ribs. He's the rib king. And back then, YouTube was around, but it wasn't as prevalent yet. But I went on the Barbecue Brethren, and the Barbecue Gypsy, what's up, brother? That's my buddy Lim. Barbecue Brethren was around, and people knew what Johnny Trigg was using. And Johnny Trigg was using brown sugar, butter, tiger sauce. I say butter, parquet. That thing. So from the time I've been cooking ribs, I started out using that traditional brown sugar wrap. And I've really caked on some brown sugar in my time in some wraps. And honestly, I love it. Like, cooking lower like I do, it doesn't burn it. It literally just crusted on the top, and it made it super, super sugary. It was delicious. But, you know, as time has gone on, I've moved over to, you're not kidding, AQ. It got a lot of people right now into barbecue. So I've moved over, and I've used brown sugar in some form or another doing my rib wraps, whether it's actual brown sugar, or last year I used a lot of Heath's Butter Bath and Wrap, Heath Rowell's Butter Bath and Wrap. It's dehydrated everything, so you just kind of fill it up, add some apple juice or whatever your choice liquid is, and add to the wrap. And that's actually what we'll be using today. I started playing with turbinado sugar this year. I don't dislike turbinado sugar, but it doesn't have that same flavor. But I haven't used it enough yet. I'm going to keep playing with it. But at a friend's recommendation, a friend who wins a lot in competition barbecue, I had some trouble with Heath Rowell's Butter Bath and Wrap last year. After reflecting on it, you know, it was probably the way I was using the cooker at the time. I was spending a lot of extra time in the wrap when I didn't need to. So today we're going to go back and we're going to try Heath's product again. Half turbinado and half brown sugar. That's a good idea, actually. That's a really good idea. That's worth trying. The other thing that I've always wanted to try, but I can't find it anywhere, and I just haven't ordered it, is the granulated brown sugar. So it's just dried out and pours easy too. But these are going to go in the smoke for roughly 2 hours. Then we'll wrap them. Probably won't bring you guys back for the wrap. Just know that I'm wrapping with Heath Rowell's Butter Bath and Wrap today. I might bring you back for our finish. Kenneth, you doing ribs day too? That's awesome, brother. But also, for sauce today, It's a combination with Blues Hog because I love Blues Hog. But I also got this from a buddy, Will, and we're going to be running some Smoke Masters competition red sauce. Now, if you're kind of wondering what this tastes like, because people go to YouTube videos to reviews for sauces and rubs, and that's always kind of peach nectar. That sounds good too. I can't find peach nectar in my area. I've been looking. But people come to YouTube videos looking for reviews on rubs and this, that, and the other. And it's always the weirdest thing because, like, how do I describe to you what barbecue sauce tastes like? It tastes like barbecue sauce. But what I can tell you is even though this is from a Memphis team, this is way more Kansas City than I expected. And honestly, if you want to know what kind of vein this is in, and this is just my taste buds, but this reminds me a lot of sort of head country in that where Blues Hog goes super sweet, this is way more balanced and sort of I don't know. It's just a little more savory. It's great. The sauce is going to be available in 2 weeks, Will says. What's consistent? Kenneth, this one's actually very thin. It's not like a cider sauce. It's not like a cider, but it's definitely not like a molasses brown sugar sauce. It's pretty loose. It's pretty thin. Like if I was in a comp and of course we like to play. We like to make our own sauce combinations because that's just who we are. But if I was in a sauce and I was in a pinch, pouring that directly onto ribs wouldn't give me any pain at all. You could definitely mop with it, absolutely. I do have a Food Lion near me, Kirby, but they haven't had peach nectar or granulated brown sugar yet. I don't know what their deal is. Bill's here. What's up, Bill? But yeah, so this is my lunch break. Skipping lunch to cook ribs. Hey Kenneth, what pit are you cooking your ribs on, bro? I gotta know. You firing up Big Dog? But I'll give you one more look at these real quick. They're pretty well sweat in. This isn't sweat in great yet, but again, that's a taster anyways. But they got that good syrupy look to them. So I'm gonna end this live. I'm gonna throw some gloves on, get over there, put them on the smoke, and maybe depending on how the day goes, depending on how the weather holds out, it's supposed to rain right now actually. We will maybe we'll come back live and see rolling on the Weber. Nice. Solid choice. Always a solid choice. But yeah, we might see you again in 4 or 5 hours. Who knows? I can't make any promises, but I'll try. But yeah, till next time, y'all take it easy, and I'm going to try not to fall over